Puerto Rican kid, bald head, loves snakes, loves Blizzy, Sergio Chacon.
Yeah. What up, Pa?
Peace. Welcome to the DBS podcast. It's your boy Sergio Chacon, aka Blizzy Chacon. That shit whack. I mean, it's always gonna be Dirtbag Shit podcast. The DBS podcast. Peace and welcome to the DBS podcast. It's your boy Sergio Chacon back in the mix. This week I have a very special guest. He's a poet, he's an activist, he's a singer, he's an actor, and most recently he just got off tour for his one-man show, Evolution of A Sonero. This guy's multi-talented. He's the dude, he's the man. BX, stand up one good time. It's your own. Clap it up and welcome with open arms, my people, Mr. Flaco Navaja.
What's good, Daddy-O?
Yo, what's up, brother?
I'm chilling, man.
Good to see you, man.
Likewise, man. Last time I saw you, you were doing a fantastic job at your one-man show, Evolution of A Sonero. Did I get that correct?
Of a sonero, yeah.
Sonero. My Spanish is whack, so you're going to have to hold my hand through that.
It's all good.
That was an amazing job on your part and your team. So congratulations to you, brother.
Thank you. Sorry, I got a plane passing by over me.
It's all good. It could be the DBS podcast.
Actually, it wasn't. It was two DBS helicopters in military formation. I feel as safe as I was feeling earlier.
Is this a representation of the times? That's the way it is.
What? Yeah, B. Thank you, man. First of all, thank you for having me on here, man. I very much appreciate it. And,
Thank you.
And yeah, it's my pleasure, brother. And yeah, the last time you saw me was at my show, Evolution of A Sonero. Yeah, it was a good time. And thank you for the love. It's a labor of love. It's a show about my life. I'm a salsa singer, an actor, poet. Started my career as a poet. And this show is kind of like an opportunity to put all of my skill set together and express myself in a way that I've been able to do in fragments. And now it's kind of like the first time I was able to just really express my story.
Yeah, man. I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't surprised in the sense that I knew you harbored all the skills of an actor and a poet, but I had no idea you had such a beautiful voice. This guy was singing, you were dancing. I believe you were even rapping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then your story was just very touching. I mean, you almost made me cry there. That shit is annoying. I was like, yo, this guy's stupid.
Cut it out.
I was like, yo, babe, excuse me. I got to go to the bathroom real quick. I got to go to the bathroom. But I love that you did it at the traveling. It was a traveling
the
theater,
Puerto Rican
right?
Traveling Theater.
Puerto Rican Traveling Theater, which is a very intimate spot in Midtown. Is that considered like Hell's Kitchen?
Yep, that's Hell's Kitchen. Is also the Broadway district because it's literally across the street from
right.
full-on Broadway houses,
Right.
So that theater, let me tell you real quick.
Yeah, please.
Was founded by Miriam Colon, who is a Puerto Rican iconic actor. She was Scarface's mother, Tony Montana's mother in Scarface.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't want you in this house anymore. I don't want you around Gina. Bro. She founded this theater. Raul Julia, another icon of ours, cut his teeth there too at the public theater, and there he taught classes there. They did plays there. And it's for it to be still in existence in that area. It's the only Latino theater in the Broadway district, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, whatever. But it's been there forever. And so in recent years, there's another theater company in the Bronx called Pregones that has had a 35 or 40-year history as well. They merged before Miriam Colon passed away. And so there's these two spaces operating under the same umbrella. And yeah, I have the honor of being an ensemble member of the Pregones Theater Company. and they gave me the opportunity to write this show and put it up, and they supported it financially, and yeah, we did the thing.
It was a great body of work. I mean, it really captured the New York City essence of a Puerto Rican growing up in the Bronx, but your own individual story. Nothing about it felt like, oh yeah, it's the shell of what you would think about. It was very
No,
much
it was personal.
story.
Yeah, it was super personal.
I love that, and it was touching, man, and it was funny, and it was just a good job. Was that your first one-man show?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And you and I guess right up to COVID, you were touring that show, right?
Yeah, actually, we were supposed to go back to the Puerto Rican. We were in negotiations to go back to the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater for an extended run of about like 3 months or so, starting May. We were supposed to be there now, like May through August, and then COVID hit. Right. So, the plan is to reopen whenever that may be. It may be 2022.
Yeah.
The plan is to bring it back.
Yeah.
I also want to do it out here. I'm coming at you from Long Beach, California.
You're in the West Coast now.
Yeah.
But I've noticed you've done the show, New York, obviously, we just spoke about that, and also Chicago?
Not yet. We did it in New York. We did it in Dallas, Texas.
How was it received in Dallas, Texas?
Really dope. We were presented by a Latino theater company out there called Cara Mia Theater Company, and they were mad cool, and they had a nice audience, and so the Latinos and Puerto Ricans out there in Dallas came out. We did it 3 days. It was cool. We did it also in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is an extremely different demographic. Like progressive kind of white people. It's a college town as well. It's where Michigan State is. The Wolverines. I know they're serious about their college football over there.
Yeah. A lot of those spots are like Wisconsin. I feel like the Badgers and the Wolverines.
You got it, me. But dope. Yeah, it would, and that was different. It was like it was a festival, and it was a very eclectic festival. Like the weekend after my show was performed on that same stage was Melissa Etheridge performing.
Not playing.
Yeah.
Yo, Melissa. So she played at the same festival you did?
Same stage. Yeah. We were. It was three headliners of the festival. It's called the Ann Arbor Summer Festival, and they have a big festival every year.
When I think of Melissa Etheridge, I think of like 90s folk, like alternative music, white women playing a fucking guitar with hairy underarms. I'm sorry, that's what I think of immediately.
When Lou Diamond Phillips hears that name, he's like, oh. So when Lou Diamond Phillips hears Melissa Etheridge's name, he's like, oh. So the story is Melissa Etheridge ended up marrying Lou Diamond Phillips' ex-wife, I think, and they have a child that was.
Diamond Phillips is from La Bamba, right?
Yeah. The suspicious mulatto. You never knew what he was.
What was that?
I never knew what the ethnicity he was. He played everything. I still to this day don't know what he is.
Yeah, I thought he was Mexican, but that's because he probably played like a Mexican gang member back in the day. Yeah. That's hilarious that Melissa Etheridge was like, yo, that's my girl right there. So keep it moving.
Bro, the story gets better. They have a child, and their child, the sperm donor is the dude from Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
What is that? Is that a show?
But that's like a famous folk rock band from Americana. Yeah, random sidebar DBS DBS combo.
Melissa. That's hilarious.
So crazy. So we did it in Michigan.
Like Tori Amos. Remember Tori Amos from the night? One of her album covers, she's breastfeeding a pig. You remember that? Do you remember that? Like that always bugged me out, but I was like, I'm kind of into it. Something about it. I don't know what it is. I'm not into bestiality.
Don't judge me.
The album cover really grabs me. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm a native Lower East Sider. You're a native New Yorker as well.
Where'd you grow up in LES?
On the Baruch projects, and then I moved to 3rd Street. Then I moved to Grand Street. Now I live on Fish Street. But LES,
Third Street, what up?
you're right. So east of the New Eurekan Cafe between A and B.
Wow,
So you
yeah.
did a lot of work at the New Eurekan Cafe.
That's
right?
where I cut my teeth. Like when I went there, I was about 18. I used to lie to get in, so because I never had money and whatever. So I'd like either tell the dude at the door, Julio, man, that I got a lot of love for to this day. It's Julio Del Mon. Sidebar, he's from a very famous basketball family from Puerto Rico. I think his brother paid for the Puerto Rican team. Last name Del Mon.
Okay.
And so now I used to go to the door and be like, I gotta use the bathroom. Can I go in the bathroom? And he'd be like, yeah.
He
And then I'll like stick around and start doing poems, you know? But at that time, it was like legends were coming up.
Wow. Who'd you see there?
At that time, the poets that were like legendary was Saul Williams. He ended up doing this movie that got some love called Slam, and it was like first time you remember that he was in Jay. First time you see like spoken word in a film.
I think I had a book of poetry.
Okay, yeah, no, he's real deal. So he was there. I saw a bunch. My brother Mums. He used to be called Mums the Schemer, Mums, and he was in Oz. He was the poet in Oz. He's also a very accomplished actor now. Yes. And so I came up in a time in the late 90s, early 2000s that there was a very vibrant spoken word scene in New York City, and it was kind of bubbling until. And that same thing was happening in other cities, in all the major cities. Like LA has a crazy poetry scene, and Atlanta, Chicago, all these places, right? And then Russell Simmons, his brother Danny Simmons, and then had the idea of putting this show together, and that's when Deaf Poetry came out on HBO. And that really blew up the whole spoken word poetry scene on a national and even international level. Right. And they would get each episode featured a celebrity, poet, you know what I mean? I remember being on stage, backstage, about to record my poem, and Kanye West is about to record his poem. Wow. And it was a very interesting thing. I remember that to this day, seeing how nervous some of the celebrities were because they were out of their element. You know, and it made me be like, oh, wow, that's interesting. It was an interesting observation.
To see that very human side.
Yes. But then Kanye, being the DB that he is, he comes on stage with a set of Louis Vuitton luggage.
Yeah, I remember
just cause. You know, I remember being like,
what did he wear the bag? He was like a Louis Vuitton like bag, and it was in front of him. Or was this a backpack and he came with some luggage?
I remember seeing the luggage. I don't remember the.
That's the sequence of the pattern, like all over the place, and it was odd because here it's like you capture the essence of what's going on in your soul, and you speak like it's a voice for the people or whatever. Then he brought up this very pretentious, like materialistic, like these items on stage. I remember that. Yeah.
And then on that same day, I didn't record with him. I saw him walk in, but he was on the same episode that I was on with Smokey Robinson.
Wow.
Whoa. You know, that was like, holy. And Dave Chappelle, I didn't get to see Dave Chappelle, but Dave Chappelle did some funny poems too, man. It was a great time. So eventually that show turned from an HBO show to a Broadway show, right? And they won a Tony Award in 2000, I don't know, 5, maybe 4. And it was, so it's the first time to see like my peers kick poems on Times Square, you know what I'm saying, in national television. This is way before Hamilton and In the Heights. This is way before all of this thing. And it was a revolutionary kind of thing to see all people of color expressing themselves on some no holds barred. So this was not at all watered down for a Broadway audience by any means, and traveling all over so it gets a Broadway show, wins this Tony Award, then they do a tour. that's when I got the opportunity to join the cast on the tour. Because
Oh wow! So you were like
best
involved. It wasn't like you were on one episode. You were like in it.
I did a couple episodes. So one of my best friends, Lemon Anderson, who is a beast and is doing his thing today on so many levels. He's an extreme. He's my favorite writer, and he has an amazing one-man show. Has a book. He writes episode of She's Got to Have It with Spike Lee.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he was like, yo, y'all gotta have my boy Flaco on this show. Me and Lemon were in a theater company together called Universes. And we were like pioneers of the hip hop theater, which as a genre. Right. There was a Source magazine article that came out back in. It was on the cover was Raekwon the Chef.
Okay.
I remember that, right? It helped me out at the time because I was teaching poetry in prison. And it gave me street cred. Like, they were like, here I am, some skinny dudes like, hey, we're going to write some poems. And they're like, yo, I came on the Source magazine. Yo, he real, son. Yo. So me and Lemon were in that group. And then Def Poetry came. And Lemon was on Def Poetry. He did the Broadway thing. And the whole time he was like, yo, you got to have my man Flaco on the show. And then, and they did. And then the tour happened, and I was able to join the tour, and we went to Scotland, we went to Australia, New Zealand. Let me just check something. I feel like my battery's running low. It was crazy.
Now, at what age were you always writing poetry as a young kid, or did you have family members at gatherings that would recite poetry, or would it? Because I feel like your home was probably just overflowing with artists, maybe uncles,
interesting
parents. I feel like congas were being hit. I feel like there was music all around. I get that vibe from you, and it's refreshing because I don't feel like I meet a lot of guys like you. So when I met you, you always stood out to me, and it was at the New York Cafe. I seen you recite a poem, and I remember that stood out to me. I was like, damn, this dude is like my age, but he has like an old soul, and he seems wise beyond his years. Artistically, you were just like kind of in it. It wasn't like
I have an older brother. My older brother is a poet. Hold that thought. I gotta get my power source.
Go ahead, man.
Wife said was like, yo, plugged in the computer. I was like, nah, it's good. And no, it's not good.
The wife is always responsible. My wife would have said the same thing. Like, you sure you don't want to like plug in and charge up?
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm good. She gonna laugh at me now. Hold on.
Now you're gonna try to go in the crib without her seeing you. Yeah, my man Flaco is the truth. When I went to his one-man show, I took Liz, and we had a phenomenal time. I was very impressed by his many talents that he was able to display. He's also, and we're going to talk about this when he gets back, he's also a runner. There's been a few times we'll be, in the same race and just kind of bump into each other and give each other a sweaty ass hug. But he's a cool motherfucker. He knows a lot of the same dudes I know, a lot of comedians. I'm interested in getting his take on the boxing tip as well, because he's a boxing fan as well. So it'd be interesting to get his take on Roy Jones and Mike Tyson doing this exhibition match.
All right, I'm back.
You back in the mix?
Yeah, my wife was like, I told you. I was like, I know.
Yeah, I was when you walked away, I was like, go watch him try to hide from his wife, and when he goes into the house, like this duck, like, oh, I just want to get a glass of water, Meanwhile, you're like pulling this power cord out the closet.
Exactly.
Eye contact. When you bullshit or you don't want to like engage in confrontation, like squint your eyes like that. Like,
my contacts are dry.
So where were we? Oh yeah, you were telling me.
You're talking about my family, cousin, my brother.
Yo, your brother.
So I'm the youngest of five. And on paper, my family is very interesting. You know what I mean? My dad is a marathon runner. OG runner.
I remember
And,
I was just when you made that little break right now, I said that there's been a couple of times I've seen you running, and that the last time I saw you in Central Park, we were doing a New York
7 miler.
race, and yeah, your pops was there looking good.
Yeah, Paul Dukes. So yeah, so and when we were kids, he would recite these poems. He didn't write them, but he would recite these poems in church and in family gatherings and stuff like that. And that was very interesting to me. But we used to make fun of him. Like, he used to be in the shower reciting, and me and my brothers used to be cracking up. You know what I'm saying? He'd be like, "Mi mamá sí fue guapa," and we'd be like, "Oh." But I guess that's planted a seed. And then my older brother is a poet and writer. So he was the first person that I saw do some poetry, recite some poetry that wasn't like all the poems that I was learning in school that didn't talk to me at all. Like, now I can appreciate the classics, but back then I needed to hear my own voice come back at me to tell me that I have a voice.
Right. That you could be a part of this world, contribute to this world. You might have a little more grit, some words you understood and felt.
Yeah. So I saw my brother. My brother went to Cornell University, right? So I was a little kid. The whole thing about because I'm the youngest of 5, I learned from my older siblings certain things about history and art and stuff like that at a very early age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that explains your spirit too, like the old soul, because you've seen it done before. You probably matured a lot faster.
Yeah, I had to.
I realize this is my ADD kicking in. I had you look like you're like a better looking version of Steve Buscemi.
I've got it. That's hilarious.
Yo, has anyone ever told you that? Like, I was like, this is like the better looking version. Like, Steve Buscemi was like, yo, if you get a do-over, Steve, this is it. This is what your goal should be, because it's possible.
Yeah, I gotten so many random things. People that say that I look like, you know. Some I'll be like, all right, yeah. But
that's a compliment.
Nah, I take it. And yeah, so my older brother, he first was reciting a poem at a school function. He was like in a fraternity, a Latino fraternity, you know what I'm saying? They were playing congas instead. And he was kicking his poem. And that's what introduced me to this dude named Pedro Pietri, the Reverend Pedro Pietri, who is a pioneer of the New Eurekan poetry movement. And he was a very interesting fellow. He would hand out free condoms, and he's worth reading. And he has a very famous poem called Puerto Rican Obituary. And my brother was reciting that poem, and I was like, oh, wow. And then around that same time, my one of his very close friends came to visit us over the summer. And his name is Maceo Cleaver. Maceo Cleaver's father.
Eldridge Cleaver?
Yeah, B.
Because that name stands out.
Yeah, B.
And I read his book.
Soul on Ice.
Oh, Soul on Ice. Wow, I get goosebumps.
So his son.
Black Panther.
Yeah, exactly. So his son was my brother's right hand, and he was in my house. So right before that time, though, there's a poem that I recited back in the days in Deaf Poetry called Revolution. I grew up on some like God Bless America, right? I was fascinated by war. I always wanted to be like in the Marines, those type of things. Yeah. And now that I realize it was because I was so skinny and afraid that in my fantasy life, Rambo was a hero. You know what I mean? I was an 80s kid. We had VHS. My father was one of the original bootleggers. We had 2 VHSs. He would rent the movies, and he had catalogs, bro.
Rambo 1 through 28.
Yo, Delta Force 1 through 75. Yeah, B. I grew up on all that. So here I am, thinking this world is this way, And then my brother comes home from school with his boy, and they having this political discourse conversation between them. And I'm a little kid, so I'm gonna be where the big guys are. And I was just picking, just absorbing all this and stealing books, and I started reading stuff. And then I went to the other extreme. I became like a black militant. You know what I'm saying? I stopped playing basketball. My boys like, yo, we gonna play basketball. Nah, B. You ever seen any of the coaches? It was the white man that turned milk white.
Did you find at a young age you felt like you identified more with Black culture as opposed to Puerto Rican culture, or was it like Puerto Rican culture was really ingrained in your family? I would imagine it was, because it feels like it.
Yes, I didn't make the distinction between the two.
Okay.
Until later.
Right.
And even then I was like, there's no difference, but like I didn't think about it then. The whole pride of being Puerto Rican and all of that comes from my father, and him. He's just hardcore. Like my dad's hardcore. His way of instilling pride in being Puerto Rican in us is by ridiculing us and saying that we weren't. He was like, tú no eres Puerto Rican, tú eres americano. No, papi, soy boricua. Nah, And he's hardcore. Every race he ran, he got the flag on, and that was kind of already. And then early on, I fell in love with salsa and the music. That's what taught me Spanish. Besides besides like talking at home, like my father didn't talk to us in English very much. You know what I mean? He could.
Right.
He didn't. My mom's did.
Yeah.
But the music early on, I fell in love with that. The whole poetry thing I started writing poems because of like my older brother and that influence. And right before that, I was trying to write rhymes, like raps, but I was too meticulous that it would take too long to finish one verse. You know what I mean? Because I was too like, my boys would get tight, bro, because I'd be like, yo, I wrote another line to the rhyme. They're like, yo, bro, tell me when it's over, bro.
You has so much to say, and you were thinking about it so much. You were overthinking it, and it had the place.
I had no way to process it, Yeah.
And if you ever try to write it on a beat, it probably wouldn't mesh because yours was words.
Yeah.
It wasn't like writing a beat. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember my first rhyme was talking about things I had no idea about. Talking about holding guns and having sex. I was a virgin, B. I was a virgin. I never had a gun in my life,
That's the way established rappers still rap.
Yeah, exactly. My original rap name was Big Ant because my middle name is Antonio. So my first rhyme was in 1993. I remember it. This is the ant coming at you in 93. I ain't the one to be fucked with, so you suckers best to flee. Cause the big ant puffs the blunts. I'll pull a bullet in your chest while I fuck your stunt.
Yo, I'll put a bullet in your chest while I fuck your stunt. That is like, like visually.
That's some 90s gangster rap.
All this shit you could do to somebody.
Meanwhile, I weighed 105 pounds and I had thick glasses like this.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, B.
And
but then when I discovered the poetry, I realized that I didn't have to rhyme and I could just tell my story. I could just talk. Yeah. And out of there, that's when it kind of developed.
That's just solid. Yeah. That's dope. That's dope.
Crazy.
Speaking of 93 hip hop era, and we're going to go back to that. Did you see the verses yesterday?
No. DMX and Snoop?
Oh, it was so good, man. Those guys have to be two of the most charismatic, characters in hip hop. I mean, they maintained what they do for so long. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like persona-wise and how they talk and how they give it to you. It's like,
and people appreciate that.
And they appreciate that, man. And it was special, man. It was special. Yeah. It was really good. I think Snoop edged him out because Snoop is I feel like Snoop just had more stamina. You know what I'm saying? With it.
I think he also has a catalog, a bigger, deeper catalog.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But he's yeah. I mean, yeah. I like Snoop. I like DMX too. I like how people root for DMX. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those people that you see are troubled and go through shit, and people still root for DMX. He ain't.
Yeah. It's kind of like the way people root for DMX is the way like people would root for Mike Tyson, right? There's similarities there, and it's because they allow themselves to be vulnerable, and they're open to to the world, and they are articulate. They know they speak and like it hits you. You could tell every time like Mike Tyson, even at his worst, he would just say things that was just so honest, and he owned it. That was like, damn, he's owned it. He's fully aware. He's a very emotionally intelligent human being, and DMX is as well. They're emotionally intelligent. They're very.
It's like they're raw nerves, exposed nerves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyson. You gotta love Tyson, B. Like. Yeah, I don't know. I hear him talk. Like, I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast with him on it, and there's something so endearing about the dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That it's just like, and I don't know, Roy Jones and him. What do you think?
You gave me the news. I had no idea, and then shortly after you shot me the text, I started hearing it all over the place, and I don't know what to think about it just yet. So it's an exhibition bout.
Charities, 8 rounds.
Charity. I mean, these are guys. I'll give it to Mike Tyson. Like, once he retired, he was done, and I like that about him. He didn't go back and because towards the end of his career, it looked like the end. He was beat by like third-tier fighters.
He wasn't there. It was a shell of who he was. Like, that he didn't want to be there. Yeah.
Right. Now, Roy Jones, on the flip side, wanted to be there, but there was a short circuit. Like, he was knocked out years prior, and I don't think he was ever the same after that. Something was off. So he was getting knocked out a lot. And it was heartbreaking.
It was scary, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like seeing that because Roy Jones was such an unorthodox, exciting fighter. And that to see him go out like that, getting knocked out, like, I just got worried.
Do you, as a boxing practitioner, and I'm a boxing enthusiast. I love boxing. There's something that I connect with my father very deeply, and that's what I've held on to. So like, I really enjoy boxing. I used to buy Ring magazine all the time. You know what I mean?
That was a fun magazine.
I used to buy that shit, and then I'll read it and I'll check it out and I'll leave it to my dad. Right. But do you think that once Roy Jones lost that step, that half a step, because like he was such a naturally gifted, agile fighter, right? He didn't necessarily rely on defense and technique.
Yeah, I mean,
you think once he started to get a little slower?
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment of what happened. I think he was an unorthodox fighter, right? So meaning he led with hooks. He didn't really believe in the jab. When you think of boxing and the fundamentals, it's like a jab and keeping your hands up.
Hands up, yeah.
He was fast. So he was fast for a big boy too. This guy wasn't light. He was like fought at middleweight.
Yeah.
And, he was just extremely fast, power both hands, and he had speed, man. So he neutralized a lot of motherfuckers. Like
that Virgil Hunter knockout, that body blow to the stomach.
Yeah. I mean, there's just countless others. I think you're correct in saying, I think once he lost the step, he wasn't able to pull that shit off anymore.
Exactly.
He couldn't pull that shit off.
And you at that point, you either have to reinvent yourself or give up or stop. You know what I mean? Kind of like.
Yeah, and
that's why Hopkins is such an anomaly. It's just because he kind of maintained his level, his fundamentals, and he figured out the game.
Yeah. I think Bernard Hopkins didn't take the same risk. He was defensively sound too. Bernard Hopkins always had his chin tucked in.
Yeah.
I mean, but Bernard Hopkins was a beast, man. He was just flourishing and dismantling boxers who were 20 years younger than him well into his career.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful sight, you know.
Yeah.
Bernard Hopkins is the man. He was the man. I mean, he you know. But so going back to this, I think it could be. I think it could be a fun fight. I just don't know. Like, are they going in like, you know, is Roy Jones? You know, hey Mike, we're gonna hold back. You know, we're gonna just, you know.
That was something that TMZ was asking Tyson, and Tyson was like, "I only know one way to fight."
Yeah, I mean, you know, they get caught up. I mean, these guys like fighting. You know, these guys, they were really good at it. I don't know. I really don't know. There's a question.
I don't know either. Yeah. I don't know. I'm intrigued.
I'm gonna definitely watch it.
I'll tell you one thing though. If Tyson does catch him early, it's a wrap. Like, yeah, because I mean, granted, hitting the pads isn't hitting someone else. We haven't necessarily seen any sparring footage. But he's looking fast and sharp and strong.
Yeah,
and angry.
And Mike Tyson's always been a heavyweight. So Roy Jones is like a heavyweight for a few years. You know, it's odd, man. It's odd. It's very odd.
My father has a theory about Roy Jones. Father's theory about Roy Jones is that his fight against Ruiz in heavyweight is what ruined him, because he gained the weight to go up and then went back down and was never the same. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And that timeline supports that. Like, you know, it's like right after. Yeah. You know.
And that's an interesting character, Ruiz, man. People
the quiet man.
He took abuse, bro.
I recently visited his Instagram, and I just love the fact that he loves his people. You know, he's a Puerto Rican who's very proud, and he's progressive. You know, I see like what he's doing, and it makes me feel good. You know,
yeah, that's cool, man. It's true, because he took a lot of abuse. You know what I mean? From the fans, from everyone, because he wasn't a fan-friendly fighter. You know what I mean? Ya viene este holding, grabbing people. I don't know.
He would throw 2 punches and grab.
Yeah, he's the first Latino heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah. Puerto Rican from Massachusetts. He wasn't originally from Massachusetts, though. Where was he from originally?
I don't know.
Yeah, but he was they called him the quiet man.
Yep.
You know. Yeah, he was fun to watch. He was fun to watch because he was a heavyweight, you know.
Puerto Rican heavyweight, yeah.
Puerto Rican, but he wasn't the funnest to watch. But I always supported him.
Yeah, you had to.
I always supported him.
That's the thing about Puerto Ricans in boxing, is that you're gonna support. You know what I mean?
Have you ever been to the Garden where Miguel Cotto or Trinidad fought?
No, the closest I've gotten, I didn't go. My first, I've only gone to 3 professional boxing matches, 2 at the Barclays Center, and 1 in Madison Square Garden with my father. The one in Madison Square Garden was Terrence Crawford against Hank Lundy.
Yes.
And I believe Felix Verdejo was on that card.
Oh, you got
That's why we went.
Yeah. You don't hear about Felix much anymore.
He just had a fight.
Okay.
He just had a fight. It's his first comeback fight after a loss, and he knocked the guy.
I think he got into a car accident or something, right?
And then he lost the fight, and then he just knocked this dude out like in the first round, undefeated fighter. I called my father the next day. He's like, "Viste, Felix Verdejo, you knocked the guy out." He's like, but who's that guy anyway? Está peleando con una lata de tomate. He's like,
Edgar Berlagna. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
14-0, all his knockouts in the first round.
Yeah, he's from Brooklyn. He's from Brooklyn, Puerto Rican too. He's looking big, B. He's a super middleweight.
Yeah. It's crazy. These guys are so young. They make me feel, at 21 years old.
Yeah. It's so funny,
It's
like
so
sports.
weird.
Yeah. We're getting. How old are you, if I may ask?
40.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
40.
I'm gonna be 43 on the 31st of July.
Well, that's awesome, man. Happy early birthday.
77. Thank you, brother.
Have you been running and stuff? Keeping up with your runs?
I just started coming back during this whole thing. You know, I kind of look at this whole quarantine and this whole situation that we're going through as an opportunity to have a forced reset. You know what I mean? In many ways, whether it be like a physical one, like getting back to my health, or opportunity to connect with my family, my wife and kids, you know, because before this, it was always a grind. My wife is an esthetician. She's a skincare. So she's a freelancer, a solo entrepreneur. I'm an artist, you know, I drove Lyft to make ends meet, right? So we were always working, grinding. One of us is here with the kids, the other one's working, vice versa. So all of a sudden now we're all home, you know, and with that comes challenges, obviously, but it's also like a blessing to have this time with my two daughters, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, you know?
Yeah. That homeschooling for a 4-year-old and 2-year-old has got to be challenging. And she's pretty much self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she's pretty good but also my wife takes care of all that shit. Like,
I hear you.
When my daughter came up with, I got fractions. I was like, I gotta walk the dog.
I'm gonna subtract myself
out of nowhere. I got a cigarette, and I was like, "You ain't gonna have me fucked up with those fractions." Yo, fractions caused trauma early in my life. You're not about to bring me back.
I feel triggered right now.
For real.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, luckily,
man.
My wife Liz is smart, and she's diligent with that work. Like, she'll go and she'll do like the process of elimination way better than I will. Like, she'll go, if she forgot the shit, she'll revisit it and do it. Not me. I'm like, you know.
I hear you.
I'll take Charlie outside. I'm like, how far can you spit? Like, let's do something else.
Let's spar.
Yeah, let's spar. You want to spar? I don't have a mouthpiece.
That's balanced, though, B.
Put tissue in there.
You're good. Those are your baby teeth? No?
For real.
Yo. So yeah, I've gotten back to my running, hardcore. And there was a time where I didn't for a while, you know, like, the last race that I saw you at was my last race living in New York.
Yeah.
And then I moved out here, and I ran sporadically. But
I saw you were just on your way out. Like, you were like going to California that weekend or the following weekend.
After that race.
Yeah.
That race was like late August, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And we moved in September.
It's great that you have that in your life, that you have running as a...
Well, my dad after the age of 45 ran over 65 marathons.
God damn.
Bro,
so he's running like multiple marathons a year.
Yeah. He used to multiple, maybe a month.
I figured that shit out.
He used to run 100 miles a week.
Wow.
At least, and work a full-time job. Worked in a hospital 3 to 11, get home midnight, go to sleep, wake up 5 a.m, run 20 miles, come back home, chill, go back to work at like 3 p.m. You know, my old projects where we grew up. Anytime anybody from the project sees me, their first question is, "Yo, your father still running?" Because everybody knew my father as a runner, yo.
Yeah.
And so I got that from him. And then running for me became super important because growing up, I was embarrassed of being so skinny. Because I've always been skinny, you know what I mean? and I never used to like wearing shorts. I never wore like tank tops. I was just too everything out of everybody's mouth was like, "Do not call me." No, you know what I mean? That type of shit. And then at like 18th year, when I first started doing poetry, this whole thing, that 18th year of my life was a big deal. And I started running, right? As a way to own that I'm skinny.
Because I was gonna say, running makes you skinnier, right?
Bruh, people was screaming the street, bro. It's cruel. They would be like, "Hey, no corre, te vas a desaparecer. You're gonna disappear." Oh, one time I ran into one of my boys. He was like, "Yo, what you doing, bro? Trying out for the Ethiopian Olympic team?"
Yeah, but you know what, man? I feel like every time I see your proportion, a lot of motherfuckers who run a lot, they look like lollipops, like blow pops running. You know what I'm saying?
Just
like
a head and
they're like all head and like you see them at the races. They got soupy asses, right? Those like that. And they're hyper alert. They're like, hi.
hey, yeah. I enjoyed it, man. So I started running, and then I started running races. I was looking the other day at like my New York Roadrunners Club profile, right, online, and it had record of my first ever race, my first 2 races.
That's dope.
It was in 1998.
Oh, that's a long time ago. Shit.
Yeah, when I first started, running it. And my dad, 98, maybe less, 96. And my dad and I ran a Father's Day 5-mile run.
Nice.
And I came in second place in my age category, and he came in first in his, and we came first, father and son, best time combined.
That's dope.
Yo, so I started running a lot. I was doing 17-minute 5Ks, B.
Yeah,
That's like 5 minute and something per mile pace.
That's fucking out. That's some gazelle shit.
That's fast, B. Yeah,
that's
bro.
Fast. That's like your hair straight while you're running type shit.
Yeah. Now I'll be happy if I do 8-minute mile. 7 change.
He's got to work back at that shit.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so running has been very important to me, and I am definitely back. I want to run a marathon while my dad's still with us. You know what I'm saying? As a tribute to him, and document that, and yeah. So that's where my head's at right now. Is kind of like building up to running a marathon whenever. In the next year or so.
Next year. This year would have been the 50th anniversary of the New York City Marathon. I ran last year, my first marathon ever. And the thing is, and I'm, proud of it, accomplishment, scratch off the bucket list. But the medal was whack. The medal was the silhouette of an apple.
And how much you pay for it?
Yo, dogs. When it all comes down to, I spent like $10,000 on an apple fucking medal.
Yo, that's something that my father always says. Like, I'll be talking to my bops about running the race. He's like, nah, don't even do it, bro. That's it. It's no vale la pena. You know how much money you gotta spend, bro? It's like $300. It's like, I still want to do it.
Actual race, there's no way about it. You gotta raise money and then like pay $300.
Yeah.
Raise money, I believe. And then I have to do like 9 races to qualify. So you're paying for each one of these races.
Yeah.
Then you got to do a volunteer work. And listen.
See, my father didn't have to do all that because he qualified based off of time.
Wow. Yeah.
Like a G. Yeah. So he was like, no. Yo voy a estar Valentín.
Yeah.
No, so he would run Boston. He did Boston. He did LA Marathon. I don't think he's done Chicago. New York, he's done a bunch of times. And then there's these smaller marathons, like the Yonkers Marathon. Like, he did a marathon one time that was on a track. It was a mile. I could never. It was a mile-long track, por lo menos. But still, that's 26 and some odd vueltas of the same.
Yeah, man. It's just like you just gotta will yourself to get through that shit. It was running
That's him, B.
Yeah.
My dad right now has a defibrillator and a pacemaker on his heart, right? And his doctors are like, yo, you can't be running. And he's like, I ain't gonna stop running. He's like, I stop running, I die right now. You know what I mean? Like, this is it. So he's like, all right, I can't run outside. He runs in place, bro, in his room and counts his steps. You know what I'm saying? He's like, no, yo corre como 500 pasos así, eso como una milla por ahí. You know what I mean? Like it's all mathematical. It's very interesting.
That is wild.
Yeah. There's things about like running with my father that I always connect with, like that I'll never forget, like the rhythm, the sound of his steps per breath. Yeah. And I know he's behind me. You know, if I'm ahead, that's my pops. He's coming up on me. You know what I mean? Because it's like, like I just have this music in my head. It's interesting. Yeah. Now running is special to me, man. It really is.
And it's good for guys like us, because you shared, you know, I love the, you know, one thing I learned about the play, your one-man show, but not the play. It's appropriate to say one-man show, not play. It wasn't a play.
Either way, it works.
Can you say play? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
So after your one-man show, you opened up about, you know, substance abuse and everything. Do you find that like the running keeps you in line? Because I know for me, running, boxing, just training in general, always feel like I'm so far removed from that world, both physically and mentally. You know, what I gain from learning more about my body and being one with myself emotionally and physically and feeling strong in both areas, like this pushes me forward. And it's just like, it builds a stronger wall, a level of confidence that really can't be taken away from me, you know? And with that being said, with all that's been built up, confidence, self-esteem, all the things that I thought, you know, drinking and drugs would fill in, you know what I'm saying, has been replaced with the true self, you know, my true self. And what's interesting about that, with knowing all that, like how good I feel, how the feeling of the dopamine, you know, after a run, you know, and the passion for all these different activities, with all that and the knowledge and of all that stuff and engaging in the world, with all that, I still every now and then get a little fucking devil that sits on me. It's like, yo,
remember me?
Yeah, like that. He doesn't hang out long, but with everything I built and everything I've acquired through a life of sobriety, like that motherfucker still comes around like dancing like this, you know, and literally dancing. So what I say that to say all the different devils come in different ways. They could come in a physical form. It could be as blatant as an ex-drug dealer. One time I was feeling a little like out of it. You know, sometimes we have a day where it's just like, maybe it's the smell of the summer air and the look of people, you know, outside drinking. It's like, you know, I wish.
Yeah.
And then I saw an ex-drug dealer. And dogs, when he saw me, he had tinted glasses. I'm not going to say his name, but he had tinted glasses. A lot of moles on his neck, too. I remember that. There's a lot of moles on his neck. And he always, dogs, you know that type, right? Right? Little ass mustache. And you can never really see his eyes because they were like always tinted, right?
Yeah.
They got look at his bottom lip. And when he saw me, he started with a fucking merengue step like that. Yo!
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Like, I remember, like, and he was like, yo. And not in so many words, he was telling me with the dance, yo, I got you, baby.
I got you.
What's up? Long time. And I was like, yeah, I'll see you later.
Yeah, be. Yeah. A scent. You know what I mean?
But it was funny, and I want you to share if you would be so open. But I remember this dude, like I would, be seeing him at a spot, and he would like teach me martial art moves, like in the middle of a transaction. He's like, yo, the thing about Wing Chun, you gotta manipulate the body. Like you wanna tuck the elbow in, and I'm like that with the fucking bag. Like, yo,
get out of here.
There's some shitty ass.
Oh man, there's some characters.
Like, yo, that's crazy. Yeah. He said you gotta manipulate the energy. And I'll be like, yeah. I hear what you're saying. He says it's all about manipulation. And you know, this particular guy was always writing a screenplay. You know, it's just, you know, I'm always, I'm in this movie, and if you're still doing comedy, I could get you wrapped up with the people. Like it was
always some hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are characters. There are so many characters, right?
Yeah. That's probably the same motherfucker that doesn't think COVID is real, right? Like,
yeah.
So with I was a little long-winded there.
It's all good.
Would you say that running keeps you away from that life? And I also,
yes, I mean, I think more important than running, my family, my wife and kids, and faith in God that helped me out. You know what I mean? The most. Once I started going on that road to discovery, I grew up in a very Catholic family. You know, I used to go to church every Sunday, but me and my brother would have to get separated in church because we'd be cracking up because there was this
man, what was more fun than laughing in church like this?
Yo, my brother, me and my brother couldn't be in an elevator, just me and him, and then someone walks in, forget it. It was like
shit,
but nothing.
And the little crack.
Yeah, it's a wrap. So so I grew up, you know, going to church and not really just digesting what was fed to me, not necessarily on a road for myself. So when I met my wife and we embarked on this journey, she was reconnecting to Jesus, and I was embarking on a journey. Like I was kind of like, oh. So we landed in this place called Times Square Church on 50th and First. That used to be a Broadway house, and it was founded by this brother by the name of David Wilkerson. And back in the days, there was a movie about him and Nicky Cruz called The Cross and the Switchblade, and Pat Boone played him. And so it's this big church that has over 190 countries represented, and it was just this welcoming place. Like I ended up singing in the choir, and literally behind me in the choir is like 100 people, and behind me is the dude from the Sack Connection, New York Jets, Mark Gastineau.
Oh wow.
Born again Christian, hardcore, yo. In the Lord, all of a sudden he gets excited, smacks the shit out of my back. Bah! He gives me a hug. I was like, yeah, bro. So a journey of faith, surrendering to a higher power, like it talks about in a lot of programs like AA and NA, whatever.
So you were when you were going through all the bullshit, hanging out, and all that, you and your wife, you met your wife during that time, or were okay? So you met her in the midst of that.
Yeah. I'm in the midst.
I met my wife, and I was like, you know,
and we both, you know, that was our lifestyle. My wife was a bartender throughout her 20s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Brooklyn. Yeah, it's not far away. Yeah. Me on the other hand, I was hiding it. You know what I'm saying? But whatever. I
mean, I was too. Don't get me wrong. Like I was the type of dude that did coke by himself. Mostly because I didn't want nobody to say nothing. I remember one time I was at this spot. It was like our Cheers. You know, I'm at this place, Camaradas in East Harlem.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And I'm out of my brains, right? And I'm standing against the wall by myself like this, thinking that I'm playing it cool, right? And my boy comes up to me, he goes, "O eres policía, o estás empericado. Yo sé que tú no eres policía." And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But that was my reality. You know what I mean? Then being artists, you as a stand-up comedian, myself as a performer, that amplifies it, because living a life of sobriety while trying to make a living in the den of iniquity, you know, like in the scene, that's hard, bro.
Yeah.
So it takes a whole lot of faith, take a whole lot of focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realized that I had a lot to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm fucking super proud of you, and you able to share that story. And I'm proud of us, like, you know, like this individual, because there's too many stories where people succumb to it, and you know, there's people that we know, and that's not always the blame, but inevitably that shit ruins. There's never ever a success story.
Like
I
a
don't
positive,
care.
no.
It never works. It
No.
never. It stagnates your growth. It robs you of your true self, and it's just you know, it's like
Yeah,
the most.
my artistry grew leaps and bounds when I got out of my own way.
Yeah, man.
Like even as a singer, like I remember being like, all right, the first set, awesome. By the time the second set comes, I've already had like 5 or 6 Jamesons in my mind. I'm killing it, but I'm screaming, or yeah, I'm not relating to the audience anymore because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know? And then when I took that away, I also used to smoke a pack and a half of Newports every day. Hardcore,
Yeah.
you know? Oof.
Yeah.
And so eventually it was like, yeah, I just couldn't continue. And coming back sober, I remember my first gig, a salsa gig, singing with a band, and I don't drink no more. You know what I'm saying? Normally they give me, they're ready as soon as I get there, they give me the Jameson. And I remember asking for water with no ice and lemon. Yeah, you get water with no ice and lemon. And like, they thought it was like code for Jameson or something like that. And they're like, you all right?
A lot of people refuse to believe it. Like,
Yeah.
like what? Yeah.
Because it's a reflection of them in a lot of ways. It's all of a sudden you're putting a mirror up to someone else, like, and you're not trying to. That's not something that I ain't trying to. I'm doing me. But yes, and people are kind of like, "What are you trying to do here? You ruined our whole situation." So we lost a lot of friends when we got sober, because just is what it is, you know.
Yeah. Me too. You know, and I don't miss any of them. You know, and I don't mean that like it was malicious and like intent, like, oh,
No.
you fucked them. I don't miss that company. You know, I don't it's interesting, right? When you're trying to go back into work, I never stopped doing stand-up, but I remember you know, and it took me a while, man. Like it wasn't like, oh, it was I had a spiritual awakening, and it took like 2 years of like, you know, okay, I'm good for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, dropping the ball, and Flaco, I tell you, man, it got to the point where I couldn't stand myself. I was so mad at myself because I knew better, you know, like I was smart enough, you know, and I was looking at myself with a magnifying glass, and I was like, yo, why can't I stop, you know? And it was very scary, and I felt very alone. And the only thing that kind of made me feel better for a short period of time was going into the sun cycle, you know, because that would last a night, but then 3 days of recovery were like super anxious, and you know, and although, you know, you stay on top of certain things that matter, inevitably, like the walls are closing in, right? And I remember like, you know, finally getting on the rhythm, right? And maybe like 6 months. And I was doing shows. I never stopped doing shows, but I was very selective with the shows I did. But everything felt heightened. I felt extra sensitive to everything, right? I felt, okay, like I felt like I had to prepare for everything. Like no longer was I dulling my senses to going like,
yeah, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
You know,
no, it became a craft. You're like, this is serious work.
Yeah, and you know, my rhythm was a little thrown off, like stand-up wise. I felt very tight, you know. And then I hit this thing where I was talking about it and super enthusiastic about having control of it. So then the stand-up changed. I felt like very good, you know.
Nice.
But then it was other times where I would do like, I was with like Giannis and Angelo, may he rest in peace. And,
Yeah,
we're
chill
doing
out.
these sold out shows. And with Marisa Rodriguez, Mauricia was at her height, 400 people a show, 7 shows. And all I had was a 10 to 15-minute spot to open up the show. And I would just feel like mad tight, like, because I was newly sober. And
Yeah.
every show prior to that, green room, and
Chilling, yeah.
really, what makes it crazy is like, I was having a lot of fun on stage. So it was like, how do I have fun on stage again?
Yeah.
And at the time, it took really being present. I got to, and I had to remind myself, Serge, it's not like you've grown since the last show. You're doing a lot of the same shit, People are going to catch on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I had to deal with the discomfort and growth of it. And eventually it happened, And it seems foreign now, but I remember in the beginning, that shit lasted like a year,
I believe it. Yeah, me too. Absolutely. And then, yeah, I mean, I had ideas of doing a one-man show for many years before doing that, but I never had the courage to confront the material. I never, you know what I mean? It wasn't until my director approached me. We spoke about the idea, and then he kind of made the opportunity happen. He was like, all right, we'll give you like 2 weeks in May. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right. I had like 15 minutes written, and all of a sudden May's coming. My daughter is born in March. You know what I mean? So I ain't thinking about no show. We had a 2-year-old and a newborn, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden May's coming. It's April, and I'm like, oh, I was supposed to do this thing, and I try to get out of it. I try to like not do it, and then I come to find out later that my director and my wife conspired together to get me to do it, because my director was like, look, we were still living in New York at the time. He was just like, just come to the theater every day. I know it's hard, but just come every day for like an hour or 2.
They believed in you, man. They knew you can do it, and they wanted to give you they want you to be held accountable and give you like a time frame to push you.
Yeah. It came out of me in 2 weeks.
Like your first rap. You treat that shit like your rap music, like you being too meticulous. You were taking too much time. Pull the trigger, right?
Yeah. Scare money don't make no money. Yeah. Hey. And and then we did the first version in May, and we did it for like 3 nights only, something like that, a weekend, and it got all this love and support, and made me realize the network of friends and family that I have, and fans, and made me realize that people care about what I had to say, and that was inspiring. And then man, and then we ended up moving to LA, moving to California, and then we did it again in December at that same theater, expanded it a little bit more. Then we did it at the Public Theater in January, expanded it a little bit more. Then we traveled a little bit. Each time we do it, it gets better and better, and I add material to it and things like that. And yeah,
I mean, there's so many different facets that make you up. And I know I said this earlier, but the poetry, the rapping, the dancing, the singing, the sense of humor. It was just a great body of work, and that's why. And in the introduction, I said you embody all these talents, and you were able to just bring it together. Do you feel like out of all the creative outlets you have and all the talents, does this feel like home? Or do you still have the same love for like singing and as a singular thing? Or does one like really stand out and feel like, this is me, but I could do all this other stuff, but I love this one? Is there one that you love?
There's something special about telling your own story and performing something that you created in collaboration with other people, because it's a solo show kind of, but I call it a one man with a band show, because I'm up there with these musicians.
Man, you had those musicians,
and they created as well. Like I would get them like, yo, this is what I got in my head. I don't know how to play that musically. Let's see if we can make this happen. Or like the opening number, I told the piano player, I was like, yo, I want to have an opening number where I feature the band alone, and I'm not there, because I never get a chance to do that later on, because I'm on stage the whole time. So I'm like, I can't leave and let y'all play a number. So let's do it in the beginning and make it something that you feel musical elements that you're of songs that you're gonna hear later. You know what I mean? It's like it's what they call an overture, and I took 3 songs from actual people that I like Roberto Roena. Take the piano part of this song right in the beginning up until this part, right, and then it should translate and go to this. And literally 2 days later, he was like, "Yo, check this out." Played that whole thing. I was like, yeah.
That's
Yo,
dope.
so is that we grew to be like fam. Those guys, played notes.
Thing, man.
Once I said something, they know they listening.
Oh, that's so rewarding.
Yeah, it's fun, bro. It's a fun show. I miss it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's the plan when things open back up? Just going back on tour with it, right?
So the last time we did it, my boy came on board as a producer. His name is Ben De Jesus. And Ben De Jesus is a talented filmmaker and a producer. He was one of the producers on John Leguizamo's last show, Latin History for Morons.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. And he also directed the documentary that came out on PBS about that show called Road to Broadway. Okay. And I met him through John Leguizamo. Well, we got cool because this is also about a week before I moved to California. I get a random text from Ben De Jesus, and he's like, "Hey man, it's Ben. We met. Blah blah blah." He's like, "I'm working on a documentary about Raul Julia, and a couple of people have said, and I agree, that you kind of look like him physically, or your body, whatever. And would you be interested in playing Raul Julia in this documentary?" And I'm like, shit, yeah. I texted back like, when? He said, no, I texted back, awesome. And he goes, yeah, it shoots in Puerto Rico. Oh, shit, wow, cool. When? Tomorrow.
Oh, God.
I was like, you got to give me an hour or two. I get home, I was like, to my wife, babe, I know this isn't the most opportune time for this, but esto lo que está pasando. This was like a weekend. We were packing to move.
Yeah.
I had the days, but we were packing. And she was like, "They paying?" And I was like, "You know what? I didn't even ask." I'm sure they are. And then I reached out. Yeah, they were, and we did it. So that's how I got cool with him. And then I invited him to my show at the Public Theater, and he loved it. And was like, "Yo, let's make this, like, we can make this a commercial venture, like we can make some money off this. Like, let's put it out there." Yeah. And so he came on board as a producer and elevated. He helped us with resources and really elevated the social media promotions and the overall experience, and it worked super well with our creative team and the Pregones Puerto Rican Traveling Things are family, and this is their baby as much as it is mine. So we had to tread lightly and you know what I mean? I can't have this dude come in out of nowhere. All right, this is what we're going to do, right?
Right.
It was very much like, hey, whoa. So it was a dance that we had to embark on, and it went super well. And then, so after the show was done, this time around, we reconvene and we're like, "Yo, let's really make this happen. Like, for a prolonged period of time, we need to jump on the momentum that we have right now, because we sold out 15 shows. It was, you know what I mean? It was just a great time, a great experience." So yeah, so we were talking about that. So then, COVID hit. So once the dust clears, yeah, we gotta just reconvene and figure it out. I think people are going to be eager to have live theater experiences, and I think people are going to be excited about it. I'm also writing some more, and the goal is to keep it moving.
How do you feel after those shows? Are you like, because it's a lot, right? It's a lot of you. Do you feel like deflated, or do you like meeting like the fans afterwards, or do you rather be alone? Or
It varies.
depends on the
There's some
night?
days, yeah. There's some days that I'm like,
That's
oof.
a lot,
And
man.
that was one of the things that we did differently this time around. Was we had a room upstairs and a step and repeat. You know, those like little red carpet things with the backdrop. And after every show, I went upstairs and I took pictures with everyone, shook everyone's hand, and it's cool. It's cool because it shows you who your fan base is. B, it's it can be overwhelming getting the love. Like it's very the energy coming at you could be overwhelming, but it's a beautiful thing. I never felt like I think I can't take for granted that people left their home and chose to travel from however far they chose to travel to come see me kick poems and sing songs and crack jokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it was a very humbling experience. But at the same time, there's times that you're just like, man, I just want to chill. Or I don't want to rush up. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a
You
lot.
know? It's a lot. I'm on there the whole time.
Yeah, I asked because I even after, and this is different. Like what you did was a one-man show. That's so much more energy and so much more like your work. If sometimes I'll do like just like a fucking spot on a show, and I don't want to go out go out, and I won't because it's not about me. It's like a show with other comics, but I know.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'm opening for my buddy, you know what I'm saying, my homeboy or whatever. But like he'll ask, you want to go on? I'm like, but and then other times you feel it, but I can't only imagine like when it's about me and I'm like, there's an obligation. I feel very like it's tough for me to do. It's tough for me to do.
You know what? I got to give it to my team, my director and also my producers, Ben, and they shielded me and protected me. They kept it moving. You know what I mean? They also acknowledged the fact that I had to come back and do it the next day. So they were very
sometimes the same night, right?
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were very much on some like, don't talk too much, keep it moving, take the picture. So after a while, it was kind of like, hey, you know. But it was cool, man, because also there were like people I hadn't seen, like my one of my best friends, right? He's like my cousin because his dad was my uncle Maxie's roommate back in the 70s. So I grew up with this guy in my family. He's a master conguero, right? His ex-wife was one of the first people that ever gave me positive encouragement to sing. One of the first times I ever sang in front of my family, I sang something in front of my family and she started crying and like hugged me and all this stuff. And I never forgot that. And she came to my show and while we're taking the pictures, right, she's hugging me. And I tell her that. Pa que fue eso, bro? We were both bawling in front. There's a whole line of people waiting to say hi at me. I'm like, but that was a special moment that we had, and it was okay. And people waited, and they were appreciative of that, you know. And I think people get a kick out of that. People want to see that that artists are just regular people. You know what I mean? Like people want. I think that's something that people have appreciated about me throughout my career is how accessible I am or how relatable I am. Because at the end of the day, I'm just a regular dude. B. You know what I mean? Estoy pelado. I take the train everywhere. Like, it's an interesting experience to grow up as an artist from such an early age. And like, you know, I always say like artists are interesting because they are given the opportunity to navigate all these different circles. Like I have been in front of presidents or the Queen of Jordan came to this community center in Hunts Point that I used to work at. You know what I mean? Or like I've sat at the table with super elite and world famous people. granted, I had to take the train to get there. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And I took the train back home. I
It
remember
is,
being
it is,
in a movie and going to like a red carpet premiere
Yeah.
and hoping that at the after party there's food because I'm broke and hungry. And I dug this suit out of the bottom of a closet and I ironed it. I didn't even send it to the cleaners, bro. I Febreze did it, ironed it, and then I taking pictures and those shits on like you can Google those pictures that I'm there. You know what I mean?
hilarious.
So it is
Real.
what it is.
Some real
Real
shit.
deal, yeah.
What do you think about Miguel Piñero?
I think Miguel Piñero is a prolific writer and a pioneer of Puerto Rican in the theater on a big scale and films and poetry. But I think he is also an experience. He's also an example of also an example of being a prolific artist does not necessarily make you a great person. So it's that thing. It's like, man, I love this dude's art, but then I hear like the dirty side of it.
I know, and that's sometimes depending on the behavior of the person, it's hard for me to separate. You know, other times I can. Like with Kanye, I can separate it. I love his music, but when I seen him do that, I think it's like mental illness. That's the way and I don't feel like when I see other people I admire who I follow on social media, even given like a writer or activist like Sean King or whoever, and they post something about Kanye, and it's like, oh, this guy's whatever, and it's negative. I don't feel like that does any good because it's so obvious to me that it's distasteful.
That he's ill.
Yeah. And that's what pops out to me first. And like, rather than condemning the man, like, I don't know, it just seems like it seems a little irresponsible. But then and I didn't say that because that's like current events. But then a guy like Piñero, like, that's that's one of the innovators, right? It's like, wow, the poetry, the movie that was made about him. And then like, it's the everything from the drugs to the pedophilia. It's a huge turnoff, and it's like it's really hard, to like separate the two.
It's tough, and that's why you can't drink your own Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? That's why it's important to work as hard on your artistry as it is on your humanity and the person that you are, because it's important for us to be complete individuals. You know what I mean? And that's a constant quest. That I constantly fall short of that, but it's a constant quest of trying to get better. And the art will only get better as well.
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I there was a time when I felt that I needed to behave a certain way to be a good comedian. Like I felt either that or drinking and drugs was manipulating me into
To think that way. Yeah.
Like, oh, this is who I am. I'm going to be a stand-up comic that's gritty and grimy, and I partake.
The persona.
Yes. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there is some of that, which is okay. It's okay to have, like, I'm a little different than I on stage than I am in person. You know what I mean? Like, people have, for instance, my wife told me one time, she was like, when we first started dating, you surprised me in a way, because it was like, once you got off stage, you didn't want to stick around. Like, she'll come see me at my gigs, and then I'll get off stage. I'm like, yo, let's be out. And it was just that. That was just me, because I was insecure, or I don't know. I've always been like, all right, I did what I was supposed to do.
You think it was insecure? Maybe you just had enough. Maybe you feel like you're giving enough.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both,
Yeah.
Because it was like, I gave enough, but also it was like, having to uphold the humble persona could be difficult. So like in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm the man. But now I gotta be like, thank you. Thank you. So it was a battle of my own psychosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. You know, it's funny. Like people who are not humble are hilarious too. Like what you said is hilarious. But I just recently saw an interview, and this is like on the other side. But remember Cameron, the rapper?
I went to high school with him. He graduated my year of high school.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yo,
Him and Mace.
really?
Yeah, 95, Manhattan Center.
Yo, so I saw an old interview with him, and he was just like, yo, I hate rapping, B, but I'm just so fucking good at it, I can't deny the people. Like, that's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
That's very Cameron-like.
Yeah.
I'm just so fucking good at it. I can't.
You know, what do you want? What am I gonna do? Yeah, I didn't know him. I remember them being good at basketball. Him and Mace, they were part of the team.
Yeah.
That year, the team went to the championship and lost to Lincoln,
Oh, wow.
which had Stephon Marbury, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Speaking of Stephon Marbury, I just recently watched a special on him, and it's just like amazing how he wasn't appreciated in the NBA, and he was going through so much, especially when he came back to the Knicks, and you know they were so hard on him, and he just wanted out, and then he just started another life out in China, in Beijing. You know,
That's what happened, right? He's a professional out there.
He's a man out there winning championships for a team out there, and totally embraced the culture. They love him, and it's just like
to this day he lives there.
Yeah.
Wow.
He played last year. I think he played last year was his last season. But he won like 3
amazing.
championships. They got a statue of him. And it's just amazing where your talents are bringing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then on the when you said something about, you mentioned a Puerto Rican basketball team, I had no idea. Like they were fucking good for a long time, right? If I'm not mistaken, there was a Puerto Rican.
I think so. They had some.
They're known in Puerto Rico. They're like known for balling. I was watching The Last Dance, Michael Jordan story, and who's the coach? Do you remember the coach's name? Phil. Anyway, the head coach
of the Bulls.
Yeah.
The dude with the slick back. Yeah. No.
Patrick Riley.
No, not Patrick Riley. Phil. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm talking about. Anyway, he coached a team out in Puerto Rico for years before.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and he said they were like hardcore, like these motherfuckers. Like
There's a cool documentary on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, called New Yorican Basket.
Okay.
And it's about the Puerto Rican national team this one particular year where they had the Pan American Games in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And all the other sports, they were like fit, like Puerto Rico wasn't really, and then basketball, no one kind of whatever. But that year, that basketball team killed it. And apparently they were all from New York. They're like some New Yorican dudes came to Puerto Rico playing on the team.
Cool. But when he was coaching, it was like, different towns playing against each other. But they were super proud. So if a motherfucking team won, the losing team would sometimes come back with a gun, shoot a ref in the leg, like wild shit. I mean,
that's crazy. I believe it.
It was positive in the light, like they were saying, these Puerto Rican basketball players were passionate, but when it came down to like losing, they weren't happy. And then I started picturing like
Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson.
You're the man.
That was gonna bother me.
Shit out of me. But then I started picturing. I'm like, yo, just imagine these ballers, right? Young Puerto Ricans with their tweezed eyebrows, shaved legs. You know what I'm saying? Yo, because young Puerto Rican gangsters, they look like Spock from Star Trek, right? They got their perfect manicure eyebrows. They got the Danny Garcia Philly, shit. Straight across, yo. With the shaved legs, I'm like, what the fuck?
Heavy.
There's certain things I can't. You know what I'm saying?
I can't either. Yeah, but that's some New York. That's some New York shit. Even though that's a generational thing. It's a
I don't know how long it lasted.
It's not necessarily a New York thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying like the fact that we can't is that we some New York cats from the 90s. You know,
That's
like,
I don't know
I
if
think
it's
so.
doing it though. I don't know if that was like if Puerto Ricans shaving their legs and tweezing
Back then, I don't know,
I
right?
don't know if they're still doing that, but I remember there was a time, and I
Yeah.
think specifically to when they were playing when
Gotcha. I don't know.
It's funny, man. It's fucking funny.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like leave the eyebrows alone. I mean, not everyone can have eyebrows like me. These are McDonald's arches. Not everyone can have it. Flaco, I appreciate your time, brother. Can you do me
Thank
a
you,
favor
man.
before we head out?
Absolutely.
Can you plug in the Instagram, any information on the one man show, anything you want to share to let people
No
connect.
doubt. Cool, man. Well, I had a wonderful time on the DBS podcast. My name is Flaco Navaja. You can find me on Instagram at Flaco Navaja, Facebook at Flaco Navaja. Google Flaco Navaja. The name of the show is Evolution of A Sonero. Also has an Instagram page. We'll be posting some about what's going on with that eventually. And yeah, thank you, man.
You're the man, man. You are the man. I appreciate your time. Regards to the family. And I hope I see you sooner than later, man.
No doubt. Same here, brother. Cuídate mucho.
All right. Peace, brother.
Peace.
Thank you.